Wayne,
Hello.
number five.
Number 5 is the Celestial Toymaker. And as you know, I'm not a William Hartnell fan, but you've probably got it as well. I got the VHS, my brain's going to go now. It was with Sylvester McCoy looking over the first Doctor's time. And the Celestial Toymaker, episode 4, was on that cassette. So that's all I saw. And then I sought out the audio tape. So I've listened to episodes 1 to 3 on there. So my top 5, my number 5 is the Celestial Toymaker, which you'll find on this DVD.
That's quite an obscure choice, really. It's not one that I would say usually makes people's top 5. And for people who perhaps don't know about it, there's only one episode left, because the others were wiped. So if you want the full story, you have to read the Target book or listen to the audio version.
That's right. And you're right, it is an odd one, but it's very Avengers. It's like it would have fitted in with an Avengers story, the 60s television series. It's a quirky episode, but I think Michael Gough is a brilliant villain as the Celestial Toymaker, and it just interested me, and I'd love them to find the other 3 episodes.
Michael Gough, viewers might remember as Alfred in the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman film. For me, the best Alfred, probably, although I do like Sean Pertwee. But I think you're right in what you're saying there about the kind of Avengers link, because up until that point, Doctor Who had either been sort of futuristic sci-fi episodes or historical episodes, and I think that was the first episode where it went into sort of surreal fantasy. But there was a lot of that at the time. I think it kind of parallels with rock music as well. You look at where the Beatles were when they started; they were a straight rock and roll band, and as it got to that moment, which is the same time, 1966, that's when things began to change and get weirder. And that's reflected in the television programs at the time as well, I think. The Avengers, when that started out, was a very straight crime program called Police Surgeon. And by 1966, it had gone into real surreal, quirky episodes. And I think that was a common thing with sort of fantasy shows at the time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I just wish they could find those other 3 episodes, because listening to them, you just want to see those other 3 episodes in the flesh, but who knows?
They may be out there somewhere, Wayne, in the hands of private collectors.
Yeah, somebody's got them. Hand them in.
Yeah, hand them in. Don't be a expletive, and just give them to the BBC so we can all enjoy them.
Exactly.
So going to number 4 then. Your number 4 choice
has got to be, I hope I've got this right in the right hand, I have, is Tomb of the Cybermen.
An absolute classic.
Well, I first saw it. It'd been released on VHS, hadn't it? It'd just been found and discovered, so they brought it out on VHS. And I'd never really dabbled in the second Doctor. I'd seen little bits, and obviously when he was in the 5 Doctors and the 2 Doctors, but I wasn't a fan. So I put it in, put the tape in, and I was glued from start to finish. It's fantastic, especially when them Cybermen, spoiler alert, are coming out. It really is a great story. And it's like you see the Cyberman, spoiler, and it's just, I really enjoy that. You can see that Patrick Troughton and Fraser Hines, they're really having fun with that episode. They sort of gelled as the 2 characters. It's just a favourite of mine. Really do like it.
I think it's an iconic episode. It's definitely one of the best stories to feature the Cybermen. And for many years, again, it was one that people didn't see because it was lost. Until I think was it about 92, something like that, when it was found.
I'll go with you on that, but I'm just glad they found it, and then they obviously digitally restored it, because it had to be cleaned up, and it's just, it never gets boring. It's a really great story. I mean, you can tell they're in a quarry, but it doesn't matter. It's just a fantastic story.
I just love the iconic scenes, which of course they've reused in modern Doctor Who, where the Cybermen are breaking out from the tombs, and that music. It's
But
an
also,
awesome moment.
there's an actor in it. He only plays a bit part, and it bugged me for years where he was from. And do you remember Picture Box?
Yes.
And
Alan Rothwell.
That's the guy, and he did all the narration and stuff. And so when I saw it, I was like, that's the guy, a Picture Box.
He actually, I think he lives in Stockport still, maybe. I used to see him when I used to work at HMV in Stockport. I'd be on my dinner, and you'd often see him walking past, Alan Rothwell. Yeah, there you go. Number 3.
Number 3, okay, let's find it, is Spearheads from Space, the first John Pertwee adventure.
And why particularly do you like that episode, Wayne?
Because I got given 3 VHSs as a Christmas present. 2 were Tom Baker's, and the other was Spearheads from Space. And I'd never seen a John Pertwee episode apart from him being in the 5 Doctors. So I sat and watched it, and I was glued. I was like, I really wanted to watch more John Pertwee straight away. As soon as he falls out of the TARDIS, and then all the bit in the hospital, I was glued. I just think it's a great story. I mean, it's like the Brigadier's in there as well, and it could be a movie rather than a TV episode. The way it's shot and the way things go on, and for the time you sort of sit there, because I was a bit older, obviously, when it came out. I wasn't born when that came out, but I sit there and go, did they really put this on television? You know, I mean, there are bits where you laugh about it. I mean, it's like, spoiler, when he's being attacked by the Nestine, and you can see that he's tying it round himself, and you sort of go, yeah, okay, that's a bit camp. But the rest of it is a really gripping story, and it led to me wanting to watch more of the 3rd Doctor.
I think one of the strengths of that story is, first of all, it's a fantastic regeneration story. It's the first one that kind of goes into it properly. Because Power of the Daleks doesn't really take me through any of the regeneration stuff, really. The Doctor's just acting a bit odd. But in Spearhead, the Brigadier sort of talks about him having a different face, and there's sort of trying to convince him that he's the same man. But if you look at the template of that story, you can tell they sort of reused a lot of that for Rose when they brought Rose back. When they brought Doctor Who back in 2005. If you look at Rose and Spearhead from Space, it's more or less the same story, really.
I'd never thought of it like that, but I guess Russell T Davies was a big fan of that episode. So, I mean, it never gets boring. I mean, I've watched it numerous times, and I always find something new about it. And like you said, it's a really good regeneration, because it's like, you see the Brigadier like going, nah, that's not him. And also you get that bit where he goes in that cloakroom and he starts putting his costume together, and it's like, yes, you know, and the car as well. You think, well, hang on a minute, I've seen him with a car like that, but that's not the car. So when's the car coming? That's why I wanted to watch more of the videotapes.
And I think that that series season 7, it is a lot more grown up. I mean, Paul Mount was saying this when he was talking. He showed one of his pictures, Inferno, and that whole series is more grown up. There's very obvious influence there of the Avengers and stuff like Quatermass. And I think that the bit you're talking about, John Pertwee in front of the mirror where he's choosing his costume, it's almost very Adam Adaman.
Yeah,
that bit. And the most iconic scene for me is the Auton shot dummies bursting out the shop window. Like you, I was not even born then, but I can imagine if I'd have been a 5-year-old child at the time watching that, it would have put me off going shot dummies for years.
Yeah, but that's the thing I like about it. It's very, I mean, obviously this one I didn't know was shot on film, so it looks like a movie. I mean, they could have just gone, do you know what? we'll stick this on at the cinema because it's got that movie feel to it.
Wayne, choice number 2.
Choice number 2 is, and it's, sorry, I'm showing off because it's signed by the Doctor himself, Caves of Androzani.
Oh, lovely. One of my favourites. And what is it about caves that you love?
I didn't expect the 5th Doctor to go out the way he did. It was, and I bet he regrets leaving because that story is so good. I mean, you're just literally on a roller coaster. I'm not saying the 5th Doctor was soft and placid, but on this story, it's like he's on a mission and he's got to get from A to B, and you sort of, it's like another movie. You're literally on a roller coaster with him, and you don't want anything to happen to him, but you know something's going to happen because he's falling to bits, and it's like as the time's going by, it's like no. It's very much like you want to say the words of David Tennant. I don't want you to go. You don't want him to regenerate, but you know it's going to happen eventually. But it's just so action packed, and I'm glad that Eric Saywood took he ignored everybody else and got Robert Holmes to write it, because it's one of his best stories.
I think it's pretty much perfect, and I think there's a very tense feel to it, because you know that if they don't get that bat's milk in time, they're both gonna die.
I need to send you a clip. I actually asked Nicola Bryant what was in that. I will send you a clip. She was at a convention and I asked her, and I can't remember what she said was in it, but when I asked her, she was like,
all right, so will we have the Wayne Affiefilms copyright to put this on?
oh, of course you can.
So everyone can see it. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll put it out somewhere.
Yeah, as a child, I would have been 11 when that was on, and I was so into it. It was on True, and then the next episode was Colin Baker's first one, which was the Twin Dilemma. That more or less put me off.
Why are you laughing?
Because it more or less, right, don't get me wrong, I love Colin Baker. I love him as the Doctor. I think he's a great actor. I just think that some of his stories I really like. But most of all, especially the second season he did, I can't watch it. It's awful. And it just, like, I watched the Twin Dilemma, and
You leave Colin alone.
no, it's not Colin. It's not Colin at all. Out of the ones that I've met, he's my favourite. And I think he's a great actor. And I think the stories he did have that were good, like the Two Doctors and Revelation of the Daleks and Vengeance on Varos, those 3 were brilliant.
I know, but I think was it not? I mean, I don't want to get this wrong, but I think there was a lot of conflict going on behind the scenes, and he got a bit of a bum steer, didn't he? It was like, the script writer didn't like the producer didn't like the script writer, and blah de blah de.
I just think you had possibly one of the best stories ever, The Caves of Androzani, followed by one of the worst stories ever, The Twin Dilemma. And that, it beggars belief why they thought, right, we'll do that one next. Someone, the quality control should have gone, hang on, we're going to put that script back in the season a bit, and we'll bring Revelation of the Daleks forward, or something like that.
I don't remember watching Twin Dilemma. It must have gone straight over my head, because I remember the next one was Attack of the Cybermen.
Yeah,
is that right?
I think it was. Yeah.
That's the one I remember. I don't remember watching Twin Dilemma. I have very little memory of it. So that's how gripping that story was then to me as a child, because it just went.
One of my main memories of the Twin Dilemma is that I was kind of off ill from school. I was off school ill, and I was on the settee watching it. And now, if I watch it now, it's got like a kind of strange warmth to it, because it just reminds me of being a child. So I don't mind watching it now. But as a story, it's pretty crap. Right, so we're on now to number 1.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but this was a hard choice because I am a Tom Baker fan. So it's Pyramids of Mars.
Sutek the Destroyer approves of your choice.
Oh, you're showing off now. I haven't got one of them.
Tell us what you like about Pyramids then.
Well, I came in with Tom Baker with the Daleks and Romana. That's where I came in. So all that Philip Hinchcliffe era I'd not seen until VHS came in. I got this tape, like I was saying, it was part of the 3 that I got. I got Spearheads, I got Pyramids of Mars, and I got the Robots of Death. And Pyramids, just, I was glued. It's just, it's like a Hammer horror classic. It's just like, I can't believe that they put that out for kids. It's like, it starts off, you know, there's the guy gets possessed, then the doctor's in his TARDIS with Sarah Jane, and there's like spooky face comes in, and then they land, and there's guns going off, and there's murder, and it's just a fantastic story. It just never ends. It's like, and you, to be honest, when they get to Mars, when they're taking the tests and that, you don't want it to end. You sort of want it to carry on. You wish they'd written a bit more, because it's just out of the Tom Bakers, that's probably one out of 5 that I watch the most, and it never gets boring. And I think the relationship between Sarah Jane and the Doctor is so perfect. They're like in tune with each other, and you sort of like, now you know that she's going to leave the TARDIS, but you wish she'd have stayed with the Doctor, because they were just the perfect match together.
And a great supporting cast on that one as well. Michael Sherd, who was often in Doctor Who, and of course a lot of people remember from Grange Hill's Mr. Bronson. He plays a great part in it. And like you say, you know, it is like a Hammer horror film. I remember, I don't know if it's still active, but I was in the British Horror Films Forum, and they had a list of the top 100 British horror productions, and they'd put Pyramids of Mars in there.
Right.
Because to all intents and purposes, it is an old book name, Hammer horror. It draws a lot of influence from those Hammer mummy films, and it's very well done in that respect. The sets and everything, it's brilliant.
Yeah, well, I've always liked it, and I think that it's not just the story. It's like the music is really really good, and the visual effects are really good. Although I was watching it yesterday, and when the TARDIS key flies out and lands in the hand, you're sort of going, let that fishing wire go. So that's how many times I've never noticed it until now.
Wayne, it's been lovely listening to your choices. Thanks for sharing with us your classic top 5 Doctor Who episodes.
You're welcome. You sure you don't want a jelly baby?
Would you like a jelly baby? Yeah. Go on then, I'll have one.
I can't do ones of it.
Cheers, Wayne.
No probs.